Parang masakit sa bato. Climate friendly ba yan?
Pero nag-average na. Yes po, nag-advance sila kung ma-answer.
Okay. Go. Okay. Hey, thank you everyone. Thanks for coming. Good morning. Thanks for all the lines. Good. Well, thank you for coming. Sorry, di tayo natuloy nung Monday kasi nagka-conflict yung schedule. Pero yun din lang. Music. Pambano lang.
Thank you so much.
Wala naman yung okay, so, yeah, sorry we didn't get together on Monday, pero we had the president of LaSalle and the secretary of DOST was with us in LaSalle. So we did take videos and photos, we will share them with you as well. But it was kind of a milestone effort kasi it will be the first time na we're actually creating a strategy for the Philippines on climate change. Not only to address our problems, but also to make, ang goal talaga nitong initiative na to is to make us a capital of climate innovation. Kasi yun yung parang main things na parang something new that we can focus on in the Philippines. So, I'll do a quick slide. So we have this picture coming up. So, as you guys know, the Secretary Solino, Brother Bernie of De La Salle is there. Mike is actually the head of the De La Salle Animal Lab Incubator. And then, of course, you see dogs here from DEVCON, and then ASIC now. So, these are the kind of what we wanted to share with you today on the press tour now. More importantly, I'll talk about what we talked about in this event, including what we're doing in San Francisco. Okay, so we'll send you these pictures. So, what is CResT? So this is parang the code name of the project we're doing. CResT stands for Climate Science and Technology Platform. The whole goal of this is to transform all the spending we do on climate resilience, all the R&D that we're thinking of doing in climate resilience, and make it a real product that we can use to solve our problems here in the Philippines, but also a product we can export. So meron naman tayong number one sa Philippines, Canada. The kind of number one we don't want sa next slide. So we just made number one of the most at-risk country in the world for climate change. Right? And so that's kind of a concerning data set. But what we want to do is turn that into an opportunity. So if you're an innovator, you're a technologist, or you're an entrepreneur, we always say that if you come close to the problem, you likely find a solution. So in Silicon Valley, kaya magaling sila sa IT because the problems and innovations around AI and data science is there. No? So madali siya. So this is a unique opportunity for the Philippines because the problems we're trying to solve is right here. And if we're able to solve these problems of the Philippines and we solve it in a way that pwede natin siya gawing product, then we have a new breed of exports, right? Where we're gonna become a climate incubator for the world. So that's our goal. So, tayo alam na natin itong problema na ito. No? We see it on our daily lives. Nakikita natin yung baha, nakikita natin yung lindol, nakikita natin yung volcanic eruptions. And what's really important is to turn, sa words ni Secretary Solino, turn from being victims to victors. That's parang turn the mindset from one to the other. And ang importante sa climate resilience, sa climate innovation is there's really three things to think about. Unang-una, resilience. Wala nang nagdi-deny na climate is a problem. So we just need to know today to be resilient. Kasi dyan So resilience is one pillar of climate innovation. Second is recovery. So when disasters come, and they will come, what do we have in terms of innovation systems to speed up recovery during disasters. And the third pillar, which is the long-term facing one, is regeneration. How do we regenerate the planet, basically, so that the world we're going to leave behind in the next 50 years or so is, a place we want to live in and sustainable long-term. So, tatlong pillar yan. So, ang kagandahan ng climate resilience ngayon is nag-evolve na yung venture capital thinking. Dati kasi, the only way to make money in climate and green is what's called carbon credits. And carbon credits is so dangerous, mahirap siyang i-monetize, parang blockchain na, di ba, it's very dangerous. Nowadays, klaro na yung problem ng climate issues. In fact, I think our allocation of our budget is now ₱1 trillion for disaster risk response. So, if we can innovate so that spending is a lot less, may market tayo sarili sa Pilipinas. Venture capital don't have to ask, ano yung addressable market mo? Diba, malaki na ang Pilipinas pa lang. And if we solve that problem right here in the Philippines, then we can scale up quite large. So CResT basically is really an ecosystem. It combines the government, DOST being the lead government agency, academe. Salle is pioneering, but Salle wants to clarify na sila lang daw gusto magsimula. They want to really contribute what they learn from these other universities. Ang importante sa mga university natin, marami tayong research na hindi lumalabas sa schools. Right? And the universities actually understand that, recognizes it. They're gonna evolve and change the way we handle intellectual property so that it turns into something that can turn into a product. Businesses, so we're gonna involve businesses early. Again, maganda lang dito sa climate resilience. Maraming business na natatamaan talaga nito like condo builders or mga stores. So they're now involved a little early for that. I want to encourage the new breed of tech startups. Para maiba naman, it's time to learn about material science, it's time to learn about battery technology, it's time to learn about robotics, maybe in context of reforestation, it's time to learn marine biology, it's time to learn other things naman, deep sciences, beyond IT, beyond blockchain, beyond AI. Now, what's really cool though about climate tech, whether we want it or not, AI is a requisite technology. Kasi ang daming nangyayari. So, isipin niya lang when there's a disaster in a city, ang dami mo i-coordinate eh. You know, the LGUs, the public works, the schools, the transportation, all of that. Hindi kayang isipin na isang utak yan eh. You need a network of brains, right? And a network of brains is really what AI is about, right? So AI will be at the center of anything climate resilience going forward. Pero if you look at this from the other disciplines in tech, magagamit na natin yung mga mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, marine sciences, and then there's a lot more evolution about climate sciences as well. Keep going na to, right? Keep going. So ito yung mga, keep going. So, I'll just jump right into the heart of the whole thing, right? So what is this announcement about? Ano yung outcome? Ano mangyayari? After your announcement, ano mangyayari? Anong gagawin natin? So this is the 4 processes of making the Philippines the capital of climate innovation. So there's 4 steps. No? Una-una, research. And this is research we do in the Philippines kasi nga dito yung problema, di ba? So DOST is funding a lot of research. They're going to now focus that research to climate initiatives. Universities like Salle will accept the research opportunities and make it happen within Salle. Ang commitment naman ng mga universities is to make sure that the intellectual property that comes out of it hindi siya napapaon sa mga university research. That the effort actually doesn't result in just a paper. It results into a product, right? It could be a battery, it could be desalinators, it could be even AI, to handle disaster coordination. So that's the first step. The second step is incubation. Incubation for climate resilience technology, iba yan. Kasi unlike the standard IT-based startups, malaki yung context ng climate eh. we need a place where there's energy so we can test different things. We need to deploy products where there's coordination of large institutions like LGUs. And so the incubation will change. So Animal Labs, as one of the technology business incubator of DOST, Austin LaSalle, will now create a new kind of incubator specifically optimized for climate change. So yun yung second step. The third step, and this is where DEVCON and a lot of the venture builders can participate, is to immediately deploy and develop products for climate. Maganda sa atin because we spend so much on disaster response here in the Philippines. Ang mga customers natin dito, mga LGU, right? We want LGUs to be aware of climate response, climate resilience. We want to introduce the innovation from climate. So, as an example, when John at Charles comes in, this is one of our homegrown climate entrepreneur in the Philippines. He invented a battery powered by salt, sodium-ion battery. Diba? Sa Pilipinas, kulang yung mga rare earth natin, tsaka ayaw na natin mag-mining, diba? That's not helping with climate. So he's developing a battery that uses salt instead of lithium iron phosphate. So that's one. Another example of startups na pwede mangyari sa Pilipinas is a reforestation robot. Deforested na yung mga bundok natin eh. And when you reforest a mountain, titigas yung lupa. You can't just carpet bomb it with seeds for trees. You really have to dig a hole and plant the tree. Ang problema naman doon is when you do that, the most effective areas to plant trees is in the slopes kasi yun yung nagiging watershed, yun yung nag-prevent ng erosion. So, delikado kung tao yung tatanim. So, that's why we created robots to actually plant trees on the slope side of the mountains. And this is kind of now examples of climate resilience innovation. So, there's a lot of effort now within the local entrepreneur ecosystem in the Philippines to create solutions for that. And then expand. So the goal of the third piece of expansion is so that our own enterprises, our own companies, our own conglomerates use the technologies we build, especially on energy and disaster resilience. And then take that usage and export it to the world. So ito yung goal namin, right? Let's create our own IP, let's turn them into businesses, let's use them for our own problems, and then let's share it to the world. So that's the RISE initiative that we're going. So, what's really great about this is parang ang bilis ng response eh. So we initially had this idea when we had the DEVCON Summit in Mindanao. In June. No? In June, Secretary Solidum committed na this would be a priority for DOST, signed an agreement with DEVCON in June. Since then, marami na kaming program na nagawa. And we identified that participating in the universities, having universities participate is really important. Started negotiating with LaSalle. And Monday this week, nag-sign kami ng LaSalle to start initiating them as a university incubator. Not too long from now, and hopefully some of you can make it. Kung may visa kayo, we'll talk. We're actually then we got the rare opportunity to be invited by the recent Horowitz Venture Fund to host San Francisco Tech Week. So dadalhin natin sa Silicon Valley itong ideas natin. No? So on October 8, we're hosting the dinner for the San Francisco Tech Week. There's 90,000 venture capitalists and entrepreneurs are going to San Francisco. And because we presented our strategy, our idea, they invited us to host the dinner for day 2, since October 8. So papakita natin yung galing ng Pilipino dito that we understand we have the problem, we're solving it, we have a system to do it. And the one thing that we really want to amplify in San Francisco is come to the Philippines and innovate here. Do your investments in the Philippines. Kasi dito yung problema, we'll present you with problems to fix. Ang tatanungin naman ng mga investors tsaka yung mga entrepreneurs is, what's the government climate? what's the source of talent, how can you encourage or how can we assure that our IP is not stolen. Yun yung goal ng RISE, yun yung function ng RISE. Now, when you invest in the Philippines, we will make sure na it becomes a successful endeavor. So, bagong kick-off natin to sa Pilipinas is to really make us a kind of resilience of the world. So, hopefully, you get some time to cover this as well. We'll send you all the materials. Pero, exciting to kasi we get to show the heart of Silicon Valley na Philippines wants to claim this as the area we want to be good at. Okay, yun lang. And then, obviously, itong mga speakers natin, puro tayo, mostly Filipinos. We invited Jim Ayala, I didn't check confirm, but we're inviting him. John's going. John's probably a great example of a Pinoy that invented climate resilience. Actually, his background super cool because he started in insurance. Siya nagbabayad sa mga climate disasters, so he decided to innovate. Christy Dratman is actually one of our gems. Pinayan siya. Grew up in the States, pero she's now famous as, and ang nickname niya is Brown Girl Green. Siya yung pinaka-strong. Kaya na proposal, papan namin yun. So yun mangyayari na to, it's a different kind of startup ecosystem. At saka mas bagay yun sa Pilipinas. Kasi tayo mayayain eh, ayaw nating volunteer ng idea usually. Pero kung may problema, magaling tayo mag-ayos. So I think you're gonna see more of that reverse pitch. In fact, in November, we're gonna have 6 or 7 parang challenge grants na, okay, how do we solve providing fresh water for islands? Or how do we solve providing portable energy that's renewable sa mga probinsya? Mga ganong strategy. No? How do we preserve our marine bioecology in Verde Island in Mindoro? Mga ganon. So you're gonna see more pitches like that. And then what's really cool about that approach is sasabihin natin, sino ba sa mundo may ganitong problema din? Right? And then we can start exporting technology. We hope by next year, so our goal is 100 startups in climate. Ang goal is within 2 to 3 years to have 100 startups in climate. And if we have parang, ano kasi, investors like parang scale. They want parang enough of an ecosystem na, and sa Pilipinas, maraming magaling sa climate doon, gusto mong mag-invest doon, di ba? So there's parang chicken or egg. So we want to start with that na, if there's about 100 startups in the Philippines that focus on climate, and the Philippines itself pays for the solutions, right? Kasi problema natin. Then, it creates its own ecosystem. Sa Silicon Valley, kaya na tawag niyang Silicon Valley at nagsimula yun before. Andun kami sa Intel when I was working for Intel, di ba? Problema namin kulang ng software, kulang ng hardware. So andun yung problema. So yung mga startups nagsimula doon. Right? And they fix that. So there's enough scale. Tayo, I have IT companies, di ba? But we're solving problems, somebody else's problem outside of the Philippines. So hindi siya talagang deep set yung ating ability to become super experts of it. Tayo, dito yung problema eh. Pag ma-solve natin yung paano ayusin yung baha, paano ayusin yung clean water, paano ayusin yung lower cost energy that's renewable, right? Paano maayos yung consumption ng mga pole towers natin na highly recycled yung water nila, paano gumamit ng materials na hindi na plastic. Other than we're victims, being number one cause at risk, we're also one of the violators, right? We're the worst at plastics in the world. Right? How do we replace that with something else? So pag andito yung problema, most likely, andito rin magiging andito rin yung mga innovators.
Winston, since DOST, the government is part of this, and they are going to be somehow funding the projects, yung startups ba will be exclusive to Filipinos or outside startups can also?
No, it's the call to action is innovate here.
Okay.
We'll fund you if you build it here. We want to be the venue for it. If tingnan nyo sa Singapore, it wasn't exclusive Singaporeans, but they wanted it in Singapore. So yun yung gusto natin. We'll invite, kaya pupunta tayo ng San Francisco Tech Week because we wanted to invite the world to come innovate here. Ang punto pa lang is, dito natin gawin sa Pilipinas. Now, we'll develop yung RISE initiative will give you talent, right, from the schools. yung pagsimula mo, DOST will start the initial research. Di ba? Alam mo, isa pa problema ng startup is pag nagawa mo na yung product, sino yung first users. Di ba? Yun yung what they call a cold start. Nagawa ko na innovation ko pero walang gumamit. Ang maganda dito sa Philippines, if you're doing climate risk solutions, may gagamit ka agad. Kasi ang problema ka agad yan, masasolve natin ka agad. That really is an important element of a startup na may gagamit ka agad sa technology na gagawin.
Sir, paano yun? OCD ba? Kasi ito yung parang daw. OCD or corporate na target?
Dalawa, no? LGUs is one target because sa LGU may budget din sila. I think 2% for climate disaster readiness. So that's already naka-budget na yun. And then the other thing about climate resilience is it's also called ESG, right? Lahat ng mga corporations sa Pilipinas dapat merong contribution to ESG. And then problema din nila yung climate. So again, it aligns really well kasi madali nang kausapin yung mga conglomerate to utilize ESG solutions, lalo na if it's built here in the Philippines.
So ESG to me, climate is quite broad. Is there a specific?
Doon siya sa S, sustainability sa
Sa
ESG.
for itong climate resilience. Is there a specific?
So as I described before, no, I'm also just learning. I'm learning a lot. I'm super excited about it. Climate has 3 stages. There's resilience, meaning andyan na yan, magkakabagyo talaga tayo. Anong gagawin natin pag binagyo tayo? So there's a resilience sector of climate. Right? Ito yung DOST actually is one of the most sophisticated predicting, forecasting, and planning for may volcanic eruptions or disasters. So that's resilience. Second aspect of climate tech category is recovery. Like what do you do after a natural hazard? Ano yung mga recovery technologies, di ba? Kagaya kasama na doon yung fresh water, yung energy. And then the third is regeneration. Ito yung sa future. Like how do we reforest the mountains? So ito yung 3 categories. So may magkakaroon ng mga startups in those 3 categories. Maganda dyan, nagiging investment thesis yan. Tapos yung mga investment thesis tends to have total addressable. Alam mo kung gaano kalaki yung problema niya in form of money. Pag may economics, may venture capital. Right? So, I just want to also say na dati-dati we do green things because we feel responsible. Dati-dati we feel like parang ano lang siya, non-profit initiative. Nowadays, because of how much it's affecting our lives and our business, green is now a part of doing business. So parang bagong pera yan. Anything green is parang bagong currency yan. And so if we think about it that way, kung venture capitalist ako, excited ako, may return on investment.
So yung startup po, it's for anything.
Could be generating water, it could be improving the watershed, it could be a much more efficient way of planting trees, it could be creating hybrid plants, it could be creating resilient corals, it could be producing off-grid desalinating for water, it could be ang dami-daming pwedeng gawin.
Evaluation yun, sir. Total addressable
Well,
market valuation.
think about the Philippines, no? Tayo lang ha, tayo lang. We spend ₱500 billion a year because of the effects of climate.
Peso yan, sir. Peso.
That's what, peso. ₱500 billion. So that's a lot of money. Think about that in the world, right? How many are impacted by flooding? How many are impacted by drought? Right? Kasi di ba, we can't prevent drought, but on the resilience part, we can create drought-resistant plants. Right? We can't prevent coral bleaching, but we can design heat-resilient corals. So yun yung part ng resilience. So, magbabago na yung pagtingin sa climate eh. Kasi dati-dati, when I was looking at it as a venture capitalist, carbon credits lang yung pinag-uusapan. It's not that exciting. Di ba? Parang in fact, para mo pang ini-encourage yung mga polluters eh. Bumili ka lang ng carbon credits, sige, gawin mo pa rin yan. Nag-iba na ngayon eh. It's really a big change, no? Na pag hindi mo to inayos, carbon credits o wala, babahin ka pa rin. Diba? Pag hindi mo to inayos, maubusan ka ng pagkain at some point. So, I think mag-flip ngayon yung light bulbs sa mga tao na climate is really a part of life, and it's a part of doing business, and it's currency on its own. So, ako naman, I wanted our startups to evolve na ganun tayo mag-isip.
So yung CResT, just clarifying, that's yung parang actual name or not?
Yung sa Alliance, kasi we just want to figure out what we call it. No? So, CResT was parang the acronym of, so sali ka sa CResT, diba? So, si CResT is DEVCON, DOST, and LaSalle. We hope to have a much larger ecosystem of more government agencies and more schools and more enterprises and more volunteers and more founders to join the parang CResT initiative ng Pilipinas. Yun.
So if we refer to this, we can just refer to it as CResT.
Yeah. Yeah. Hindi daw close up or little lang okay, started here. Marami kasing may mga initiative on green, no? But nobody's really building what's called the complete ecosystem of innovators, government agencies, academic, consumers, entrepreneurs, yung mga venture capitalists. So parang kailangan natin ng ecosystem approach para magamit. As nakakatuwa yung mga innovation to create carbon-free energy. Pero nga isang innovation na tinitignan namin, mga $4 lang makakaproduce ka na ng desalinator for a family home using solar of water. Any more questions? Kaya mainit dito kasi climate resilient tayo. Babawas tayo ng carbon footprint. Actually, yun yung gusto kong gawin eh. Like, yung mga events namin, binibilang na namin yung ilang watts ba kinain natin to do these things, diba? Ilang papel ba? Yeah, it's actually nice. So, bahay ko, I'm starting to do that. Counting, hindi lang counting calories, counting kilowatts na rin.
12 million, right? 12 million, right? Times 2. 24 million, right? There are 24 million families in the Philippines, correct? So how many breadwinners per family? One. So how many breadwinners do you need?
24 million.
Correct, right? If every breadwinner worked in an economically complex firm with 100 employees, how many companies do you need?
24 million.
No, 24 billion divided by 10. Divided by 10.
2.4.
Divided by 10 again.
Okay. 140.
Correct. So the Philippines, to be progressive, needs 240,000 companies, each employing 100 employees with at least 20 personnel operating. That's how countries progress, right? And do you know how many we really have in the Philippines with that criteria? Give me a number. You guys are journalists. You have to know. Give me a number. Guess. 240,000. Give me a guess. 50,000? 20,000? Give me. 5,000? No. 5. Hindi naman. Huh? 0. 30,000. Correct answer is 20,000. Yeah, but it's very sad, right? Because look, we're not even 10% of what we need. The 90% are employed in small companies, micro SMEs, right? That don't have critical mass of know-how, right? So the most common business is a sari-sari store, right? That does not create critical mass of know-how. It does not create a good or service. So we need to be able to create 220,000 more companies. And when you create these companies, it cannot be in a vacuum. You must bring in know-how. And know-how can never be self-generated. Jose Rizal was the first batch of Filipinos to have left the Philippines. And he was allowed to go to Spain to study. What he found was the Philippines, because being it's an archipelago, we were so isolated from the world. So we found that we were behind by 200 years. our knowledge, our know-how was so insufficient. So that's his biggest insight. And the only way to bring in know-how is to bring in people who are from abroad. Filipinos and non-Filipinos to bring in know-how. Where is Jollibee's know-how from? Where did the Tan family get know-how? Did they self-generate? In the early days, they would always benchmark against McDonald's. They will hire retired McDonald's personnel, right? Because it's know-how. Jollibee has very good finance. Who is their CFO? The CFO is not even Filipino, it's Jewish guy, right? So you can see that the know-how comes from other places. So if you look at everything in the Philippines, know-how always came from some place. It's never self-generated. That's why we have to create this global network of partners so we can work. So why am I here? Why did Wilson ask me to speak? One of the critical requirements for the world now is to adapt to climate change, right? Who is familiar with the Paris Agreement? Okay, I'm gonna brief you guys because you gotta know these things if you're talking about climate. The biggest problem in the world is that we're injecting too much CO2 in the atmosphere, right? And when you have too much CO2 in the atmosphere, it gets very, very hot because you trap it. If you take global mean temperatures, it's only supposed to be, let's say, 12 degrees. That means every day, all over the world, maximum minimum is average 12 degrees. We've put so much CO2 now, it's getting much, much hotter. And what they said is you cannot go beyond 13.5 degrees or 1.5 degrees. You go beyond that, you already have like global chaos and climate. You'll destroy the climate. So the number is from 12 degrees, max 13.5. And they said you have to do 4 things. What are they? What must the world do in 4 things? Number 1, you have to switch over from fossil fuels for energy to renewables. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to switch over vehicles from ICE to renewable, to electric. Number 2. Number 3, you have to have massive reforestation. And number 4, you have to reduce the emissions of agriculture, particularly cattle, beef, and rice growing, paddy growing, generates lots of CO2. So these are the things we need to do. But you can't do it using government money because there's a lot of it. So you have to create companies to do it on a for-profit basis, funded by the private sector. But it also must capture and use know-how from all over the world to solve the problem. It's a very complex and difficult task. So what have I been working on over the last 10 years? For the first one, for fossil fuel transition, we began the Philippines' first advanced battery R&D company called NASEM. Inquirer covered us last week, or 2 weeks ago, right? So I partnered with the battery science team of UP Diliman. There is a place there called Laboratory for Electrochemical Engineering. We have a small team of batteries and energy storage scientists who house there. We partnered, and we are building our own Philippine battery chemistry and battery storage systems. Our investors are firstly like the Lopez Group and Joey Lim, who is CEO of Metro Pacific before. That's the first thing. So hopefully we can participate in this energy transition. For automotive, we're not playing anything there because we are not a manufacturing hub of cars, right? All the cars now are based in Thailand and China. Did you know that in Singapore, they're no longer going to allow IC registration? By 2030, no more cars will be registered because kung may tambucho. We're the only country now in ASEAN, big country, that has no phase-out period for ICE. But eventually it's gonna come because once they stop manufacturing ICEs, we're gonna transition. And then now you see BYDs, right, Geelys, all available here. It's become more powerful. The second thing, we're not doing anything in automotive. And then we're doing something in reforestation. To the Philippines, we're down to our last 5% of our forest cover. It used to be 95%. And we have to restore it. and it is very expensive to restore. So we do reforestation, we use carbon finance. Our partners are foreign companies that do help us do the carbon financing. But then to make the costs affordable, we found that the biggest cost in planting trees is not planting itself. It's logistics, bringing up planting materials, seedlings from the ground to top of the mountain. So we also began a robotic company where we will have actually this robot mule. It's 1 meter high, maybe half a meter width, and it basically will follow you up the mountain. Or in a pre-programmed path, it will walk up the mountain carrying a big tray of seedlings, fertilizers, and so on. We do that so that we can reduce unit costs for planting. Because if you want to plant, reforest something, you need about 500 to 700 little seedlings per hectare. And we have to replant about 1 million hectares at the very least. So we're also doing that. And we have another company doing it at a larger scale, but dealing with IT groups, NGOs, because most of the areas that are going to be needed to be forested are owned by indigenous peoples. And then lastly, we're doing something in water storage also. Our biggest problem is water storage. Climate change impacts water regularity. So now you don't know anymore when the typhoons are gonna come, and we have to be able to store our water. Globally, Singapore has 1,700 cubic meters per person of water stored. Thailand, 500 cubic meters of water stored. Philippines, we're down to 50. So actually, we don't have enough water. So if you have a very bad drought, we will be like South Africa. No more water, last 1 week of water. So that's what I do, right? On top of other things we do, it's what we do. But I'm here to support Winston in everything he does, and wish us luck. That's it.
Q&A. Si Jen, marami yan yan.
That's it.
Ito, sabi ko, in 2 to 3 years, kung may 100 startups na tayo on climate-related stuff, ito yung simula.
Yeah, I hope so, because we need a lot. We're gonna need a lot.
Ito yung mga ating pioneer partners. Okay, any questions for Jan? Oh, may test mamaya, may quiz.
Ilan ng population?
Globally, okay, good question. Globally, what's the biggest problem in climate? When you live without the clutch, without your back, okay lang. No laptop, okay lang when you live. You will live without laptop. Let's say no cell phone, will you live? But you will, right? No power, would you live? You still will. What can you not live without? Water.
Boyfriend.
Water. That's the world's biggest problem. And in Africa, there's drought already. There's drought, and imagine having no water in 3 years. Your fields die, then you start becoming refugees, then you start killing each other for water. That's our biggest problem. And is the Philippines immune from it? We're not immune. We're not immune. You could have a big drought, and then it will impact. It's those of you who remember the droughts in the Philippines before. So water is the biggest impact. And the heat, global heat. Because the global heat kills the fields, kills the crops. And you can't grow things anymore. And it burning down forests all over the world. So it's really overheating.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you, John. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good luck.
Tara, lunch natin.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Kain pa.
Chicharron.